And now as we allow ourselves to relax into this time of meditation, I invite you to take a deep breath and close your eyes if you haven't already. And allow the chair to support you, knowing that you are always and fully supported by the love of Spirit. And with each breath, let us fall into that grace, those arms of love and support, even more, as we enjoy our time of union with the Holy. And I invite you to let these next words be the silent words of your very own heart. As we sense even more our firm foundation, the living, loving God. My mind is open and my heart is ready to receive even greater ease and flow in every area of my life. If I notice any burdens, I lay them down at the altar of love right now. That love that releases and relaxes, comforts and harmonizes, cradles and renews. I rest in this magnitude of divine love. My heart is open. My mind is ready. And I am willing to release outworn attitudes, behaviors, and feelings that no longer serve me. I stand at the altar of love, willing to release any limiting beliefs that stand in the way of greater good. I'm willing to step into the flow of a greater awareness and embodiment of God's infinite and opulent love. I relax and trust, willing to be the inlet and outlet of God's great love and abundance right here, right now. Let us rest for a few moments now in the silence. Now, as we return our awareness to this realm, let us give thanks for knowing the truth, acting in faith, and leaning into Source that is right here, right now. We say, thank you, God. Amen. Let it be easy. Oh, yes. So, Jackie just gave me an idea. I think this week I'm going to find all the songs I can about taking it easy. I think some Eagles songs might be in there. Oh, yes. Oh, boy. So what a journey we're on, right? So we begin with the story. And it's kind of a choose-your-own-adventure story. So imagine that you're a traveler and you're walking through this field of flowers and you're headed toward a village nestled at the foot of a mountain. And on the path, your boot hits something hard and you look down and you see gold nuggets all around you. So you open your backpack, stuff the backpack, put them in your pocket, take some in your hand, and trudge on to the village. Because the load's pretty heavy, but there's no way you're going to stop and put down even one piece of that treasure. So it's been a long walk. But you get there, you're tired, you're hungry, but you're grateful because you have found the inn. And you walk up to the registration desk and place one gold nugget on the counter and ask for a row. And the clerk shakes his head. He says, I hope you're not trying to pay for it with that worthless rock. You are really confused. So after much discussion, you discover that in this land, gold has no value. Sand is the medium of exchange. And in order to prosper in the land of sand, you have to change your beliefs about what is valuable. So how's your prosperity journey going? It's really an inside job, isn't it? You know, we've been working with these beliefs about what is truly valuable. Where do we place our faith in what is valuable? And where do we put our time and our attention and our energy toward it? And, you know, when we seek first the kingdom, to value, to have faith in not the material currency, but a divine currency that never runs out, never dries up, is always abundant and instantly available. That's what we're about in this prosperity series that we're doing in June and July here. With this wonderful book by Reverend Jim Rosemurky. He's a unity minister. Even mystics have bills to pay. balancing a spiritual life and earthly living. And that is a balance, isn't it? Yeah. But each time we're able to hold the truth that God is our true source, two things happen. First of all, we're blessed with a sense of security and well-being and ease. And secondly, we find that our earthly needs are met when we focus on God first. Sometimes we try to do it backwards, right? Try to get the thing or the relationship or the outer, and we think, oh, and then I'll be grateful, then I'll, give thanks to God. But the secret is it works the other way, going to God first as source with gratitude. So as we continue our prosperity journey with this wisdom from Jim Rosemurgy, I invite you to notice one thing that catches your attention today that you can take home and work and incorporate in your spiritual practice. That's one thing I love about Unity. We have these practical principles, these tools to take into the real world to try out and to work them. So yes, even mystics have bills to pay. Because we live in this three-dimensional world that is always changing, right? Always changing, but there's one thing that doesn't change, and that is our spiritual nucleus, as Charles Fillmore called it, our Christ essence, that is always awake, always alert, responsive, and awaiting our attention to it to help us navigate this world of form. And we're spiritual beings having a spiritual experience in a form, in a world of form. So that Christ essence of us knows the way always. But the human aspect of us can sometimes get distracted or doze off or wander in seeming lack or get lost in the trance of scarcity. When you take those words apart, scarcity. A lot of people are living in scarcity right now, right? And so we face our fears, we take them to prayer, we return to knowing God is source, and be open to the divine ideas that come, that divine currency. So the good news is, whenever we find ourselves in scarcity, which, sometimes looks like the other side there, right? We can always return to center, return to source, back to love, back to God. God is source. Sometimes this return is instant, and sometimes there are obstacles to overcome and burdens to shed. Rosemurgy calls them the 3 pennies that jingle in our pockets. And he adds that no one enters the kingdom of God or finds security and well-being when these 3 coins jingle in our pockets. Can you guess what they are? So as we go through these, notice what gets your attention about what you might want to work with this week. So with these 3 coins that jingle in the pocket, I call them counterfeit coins because we think they'll buy us happiness or a sense of well-being, but really they get in the way. And maybe the ego feels justified in holding on to these, trying to keep us safe. But Spirit knows that in order to live in the fullness of God's love and abundance, these burdens have got to go. And they are judging by appearances, thinking lack, and holding resentments toward others and ourselves. So judging by appearances, we all work with that, don't we? And especially, maybe right now, it may be very challenging to, what are we seeing? and being reported in the news where many things are appearing in crisis right now, economically, politically, socially. But when we judge by appearances, this is where we falsely believe that someone else is responsible for our good, or someone else is our source of good. So where did this come from? Well, you think as a child, we relied on our parents, right, as our source to provide everything we needed. And also growing up, we absorbed their attitudes about money and happiness, and who had it, who didn't, who was responsible for providing it, and there's so much there, right? And then out in the world, we're led to believe that we had to look to employers, the government, a pension plan, Wall Street, customers as our source. And of course, these are all channels through which good can flow, but they're not the source. Because companies get sold, employers come and go, the government does what it does, customers arrive and depart, and it's the ever-changing form of the material world that we live in. And if we're judging by appearances, we're like this, right? Our emotions and going with the rise and the fall. I like this from even mystics. He says, a deepened, more vivid awareness of need only creates anxiety and a sense of inadequacy. So when we're focusing on lack, what do we see more of? Lack. But knowing God as source, we're assured that if one channel dries up, one of these channels dries up, there are numerous other channels, 100 ways, channels to open up for the good to flow. Some we might not even be aware of. That's the fun part, right? We think we have it all figured out, but no. We are living in the great mystery. More than 100 ways of good flowing to us and from us. So not only can we receive these through these channels, multiple channels, but when we're tapped into the God as source and divine currency that's flowing of God's love, we become a channel of good. I bet you have all done that this morning, even before you got here, have been a channel of good for someone. Even if it's been letting someone go in front of you in traffic, or giving someone a smile, petting someone's dog, or your own. One church that I served in, we had an interesting things happened there, but one of the interesting things that happened there was envelopes stuffed with cash would show up in the church mailbox randomly with no name, no address, just, oh, here's a packet of cash again. It was this mysterious channel of good that somebody felt moved to just bless the church. And of course, we had a lot of discussion about, like, who could it be? Where did this come from? You know? But we were very grateful. So think about your life for a minute. After holding something in prayer, have you ever had a mysterious channel of good show up? Yeah. So this could look like an unexpected opportunity, a divine idea, some help or resource you did not expect. And perhaps God's currency of love is moving in your heart right now to give, to share, to help a person, a group, a cause that is near to your heart. That's one way we can watch the news, is hold it in prayer and go to our hearts and say, what is this moving my heart Where's my heart moved to give, to help, to share, to bless? Because in that way, we become a channel of that good, too. So the second burden we're asked to release is thinking lack. And when we hold a belief in anything other than God as source, we're thinking lack, right? It's like looking at the hole instead of the donut. Focusing on lack, seeing more lack of what's missing. And that fear of loss can drive us to do things we wouldn't normally do, right? That fear can lead to hoarding. I heard a story of a young man who was accepted to ministerial school, and even before he moved on campus, he started hoarding materials for his 2-year stint there. And one item he stockpiled was shaving cream. And at the beginning of the second year, something unexpected happened. The cans of shaving cream started exploding in his closet because all the cans had lost their seals. He had a closet full of goo. So hoarding out of fear, he lost what he had. Have you ever noticed that fear-based decisions tend to backfire? Like the manna the Israelites tried to hoard, it spoiled. So give us our daily bread. Our daily bread. Going to prayer, our daily bread, God as source. In biblical times, there was something called the Jubilee Year, which every 50 years, land was returned to the previous owner. And the idea that they held was that the earth belonged to God, and people, we just borrow it for a while. And isn't this true of any material item? That we just borrow it for a while. I don't know about you, but I've never seen a U-Haul being towed behind a hearse. I get inspired when I think of community founders, because they lived through periods of war, influenza, the Great Depression. And I love the story about Myrtle Fillmore. They were at a board meeting, and it was during a challenging time at the village, Unity Village. And one of the board members said, "Let's pray that our money holds out." And Myrtle pipes up and says, "No, we must pray that our faith holds out." And here we are almost 100 years later because of that faith that held out. So seeing beyond appearances with the eyes of faith, seeing God as source, we're filled with peace and well-being and assurance that our earthly needs are met. And so one affirmation that I really like that is an elevator up vibrationally, I keep looking for the clicker, here we go, is this one. Some of the ministers have set out a challenge this month to do this 100 times a day. So let's try this on 3 times. Together. Every day and in every way, my life is getting better and better and better. Every day and in every way, my life is getting better and better and better. Every day and in every way, my life is getting better and better and better. Just breathe that in for a minute. Do you notice a difference? Turn to someone near you and say, every day and in every way, your life is getting better and better and better. Every day and in every way, your life is getting better and better and better. One more to someone else every day and in every way, your life is getting better and better and better. Amen. Amen. Yes. Ooh, lots of energy in this room. Nice. So, our third burden to release is holding resentments toward ourselves and others. And we work with this too, don't we? Releasing those. So-and-so who did us wrong. But here's the thing, God is love. And when we hold resentments, we can't feel that love very much, can we? So anything that shields us from a consciousness of God, of love, separates us from supply. Separates us. So holding on to resentment may be the ego's way of trying to protect us from future betrayal. I'm not letting go of that. I don't want to be tricked again. However, if we're always looking for, we're hyper vigilant about some kind of betrayal, what are we bringing to our next relationship? What are we bringing into our next job or our friendship? As I was thinking about this, I remembered a number of years ago, I was dating this man, and we used to go on these field trips, and he and his young boys and I, we went to San Francisco. And I don't know what it's like now, but back then it was a magical place. There were street performers, musicians, the docks with the barking seals, and it was so fun. And the four of us were having a great time just walking around, and a beautiful, breezy day. And at one point, I went to the restroom and I returned, and the three of them were sitting at a picnic table eating ice cream cones. I said, "Where's mine?" And he said, "Here, you can have some of mine." There was like 2 bites left. And I sulked. And in my mind, the story started going. Like, oh, he thinks because of my size, I don't need one. And then the mind keeps going if we don't catch it right away, right? It keeps going, making up stories about not feeling good enough, not being beautiful enough, not pretty enough, not thin enough, etc. It was an old story that I used to beat myself up with. So the magic had left the day because there was a barrier. I sulked the rest of the day. And he got a cold shoulder for about a week. Until finally, I asked him, I said, last week when we were at San Francisco, I said, "Why didn't you buy me an ice cream? Do you think it was because I don't need the calories?" And that was a really risky thing for me to say, to be that honest and vulnerable. And he looked at me and kind of laughed. He said, "No, that's not it at all. I'm just cheap." It may sound like a little thing, but isn't it these nitty-gritty little things in our lives that we can pile up the resentments and block our hearts and keep people out, keep us separate from our higher self, from others, and from God. So, one thing to keep in mind too as we think of letting go of resentments, you're not the same person you were when that thing happened. You're wiser now. You're wiser. God has been working in you, involving in you with all the aspects of God. You're wiser. You have more faith, more strength, more power. You'll see they're red flags, you will see them pretty quick. And right now I would go buy my own ice cream. So we can take the wisdom from the experiences, right? Where we've held resentments, we let the hurt go, but we can keep the wisdom and keep our hearts open to be present, to love. Jesus knew the power of forgiveness and reconciliation, even if we do it in our own minds. From the book of Matthew 5:23. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, and then offer your gift. Come back with a pure heart, because you are the gift. And I love this prayer from Psalm 51:10. Create in me, O God, a clean heart, and renew a right spirit within me. So these 3 pennies jingling in our pockets, counterfeit coins that we think will bring us love, happiness, or prosperity, but don't. So may we be willing to let them go this week and take into our consciousness this affirmative seed of faith from one of my favorite, I have many favorite prosperity books, but from this little green book right here, the Abundance Book. And I invite you to let this be a seed to just sink in. The divine consciousness that I am is forever expressing its true nature of abundance. This is its responsibility, not mine. My only responsibility is to be aware of this truth. Therefore, I am totally confident in letting go and letting God appear as the abundant all-sufficiency in my life and affairs. And so it is.